It always starts
and ends
with a story. She who doesn't listen to music when she writes. She never listens to music when she writes her poems, always late at night. She really wants to though, Frank Sinatra, Justin Timberlake, anything. She says it's because she doesn't like the noise, but maybe it's really because it's what she thinks is right. The right thing to do to make the best writing possible, to produce the greatest results and make everyone the happiest they've been. That's what everyone does, write with music at least. But when the music is on, she just can't focus. From Elvis to the Jonas Brothers, she's tried it all. It doesn't work. But she really wants to write. Write well, the way she's seen others do. But anyways, for now, she writes privately and in doubt because it's all she knows how to do.
He who writes the titles but never the words. He is very good at coming up with the titles. He knows the ideas he wants to write about, he just can't actually write about them, if you know what I mean. Every experience he goes through is a moment, a title like, I learned how to ice skate today, or the next best thing. And yet, when he tries his best to think of the story that follows, the accent isn't placed correctly, the message not entirely clear. In his notes tab, he has a list of titles which will never have the words.
Someone very different. There is someone very different, or at least the writers think so, but in reality, he really isn't. It turns out that in life, there aren't actually a lot of people that are very different. Not many people at all. Anyways, Mr. Very Different doesn't really care. He doesn't write in the style in which I am speaking to you in right now. He doesn't really think about words or titles or really anything. He doesn't think about anything. He just lives. And that might be his greatest accomplishment of all.
The same she. The same she, as mentioned before, she also likes to write in the dark. Generally, she'll sleep at around 10 p.m., but some nights she stays up a little later because she thinks it'll help her writing problem. More on that in a bit. She realizes she does a lot of things because she thinks it'll help, but maybe that's something she can write about later. You see, she doesn't have a lot of problems, and that seems to be the greatest problem of all. Now, she doesn't mean to be a snob when she says this, it's just the truth. She lives her life the same every day, and that is bliss to some but conflict to her, because she needs something, some sort of fuel, something which will make her writing great. She seems to be striving for that a lot these days. Great.
To sum it up, they struggle a lot, but also very little. The writers have a lot of feelings within them, but the hard part always seems to be expressing them. They both like to write their poems in their notes tab, but if anyone else saw their writing, they wouldn't quite understand what any of it meant. The official term they think is writer's block, but the real confusion comes from the lost translation between how they feel and the things they want to say. They like to come up with problems because it makes for good writing, but because they don't actually struggle, the writing never seems to be authentic enough to ring true, and that seems to be a problem in itself. Or is it? Regardless of their problems, or lack of, the writers struggle with the concept of writing. The time it takes, the difference between right and wrong, the heavy commitment that comes with placing words to spark the same emotion that the writers once felt when the ideas first struck their brains. There seems to be a never-ending surplus of titles, but every word that follows feels misplaced, void of a feeling that the words of Mr. Very Different creates.
Happiness. Speaking of happiness, it's a complicated word to explain. The writers have come to the conclusion that it is a fine balance between struggle and satisfaction, two words they like to use in their explanation only because they slip easily off the tongue. Mr. Very Different doesn't take his time when he writes. His words slip easily off his tongue without him even trying. The writers, they're not the same. They put hours and hours of effort into words which they are never sure will have the effect they want to have. They have beautiful ideas, but their ideas take time, and in that time, it seems easy to quit. Maybe it's writer's block, or maybe it's the hope that with enough patience, the words will come to them, the way they do to others. Because the writers are writers. Sure, they draft a million titles writing with and without music because they think it will help, but their ideas are important and they need to be heard. Because when the last word is written, the piece presented, and the flowers handed over, it all makes sense. Their time has been used valuably. Their words are taken to heart. Authenticity doesn't come from being unnatural. No, it comes from struggle and satisfaction. It doesn't matter who we are or what it is we do. Some people write, other people work a 9 to 5, others like to sing when nobody is watching. It's easy to feel lost, especially when the words don't sit right, the goal's not fully met. But time will always show its proven benefits. They're not the best writers, but that's okay. Because they fight their writer's block and they write and they write and they hope that this is all for them to be happy, or at least for them to write a damn good story.